Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're really getting into something fundamental for anyone doing information security seriously. It's that question. How do you actually know if all the work, all the investment is, well, working?
Yeah, it's the crucial feedback loop, isn't it?
Exactly. And that brings us straight to Clause 9 of ISO IEC 27001-2022. We're going to dive deep into this one.
Performance evaluation, it's the title.
Right. And we're not just reading the standard here. Think of us as guides. We want to help everyone understand how an organization is supposed to monitor, measure, analyze, and really evaluate its information security management system, the ISMS.
And how things like internal audits and management reviews plug into that whole process.
Couldn't have said it better. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Clause 9, like I said, performance evaluation. This is really where, the theory hits practice. You can have amazing policies, all the latest tech.
Shiny boxes with blinking lights.
Yeah. But if you can't measure how effective they are, you're basically just hoping for the best, flying blind.
So Clause 9 gives us that framework, that structure for checking if we're actually protecting the information.
That's the goal, establishing those feedback loops.
Okay, let's unpack it. First up is Section 9.1, Monitoring, Measurement, Analysis, and Evaluation. Quite a mouthful.
It covers a lot of ground.
The standard starts by saying the organization needs to figure out what needs to be monitored and measured. What does that usually involve? What are we talking about?
Well, it points directly to information security processes and controls. So it's not just listing your assets.
Yeah.
It's about looking at the processes. Like, take data backups. You don't just say, we do backups. You monitor maybe how often they happen. Are they completing successfully? How quick is the restore time and tests?
Okay. Tangible metrics. And controls.
Same idea. Say you rolled out multi-factor authentication. You might monitor how many people are actually using it, or maybe the number of dodgy login attempts it blocks.
Okay.
The real key is linking that monitoring back to your main security goals. What matters most? Measure that.
So it's about focusing on the vital signs, not just like counting things for the sake of it.
Precisely.
Then the standard talks about how this should be done. It uses words like valid, comparable, reproducible. What does that mean in everyday terms?
Yeah, this is important. This is where it can get a bit fuzzy if you're not careful. Valid just means your measurement actually checks what you think it checks.
Makes sense.
Like measuring attendance at security training doesn't really tell you if the training worked. That's not quite valid for effectiveness.
So what would be?
Maybe tracking clicks on test phishing emails after the training. That gets closer to measuring the behavior change.
Gotcha. And comparable and reproducible.
Comparable means you use the same method over time so you can actually see trends. Are we getting better? Worse? Staying the same? Reproducible means if someone else followed your steps, they'd get roughly the same results. It keeps things objective.
Right, so we need trustworthy data, not just gut feelings. Yeah. The standard also mentions when this should happen. Is it like a constant thing or set times?
It talks about planned intervals. It's meant to be ongoing, but the frequency isn't dictated by the standard.
Why not?
Because it depends, on the organization's risk, what kind of business it is, its specific security objectives. Something really high risk might need almost constant monitoring.
Like network traffic, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. Whereas a less critical control might only need checking, say, quarterly or annually. The point is, you decide what's appropriate, you plan it, and you stick to it often enough so the data is still relevant.
And who does this? Who's actually doing the monitoring?
Again, the organization has to define that clearly. It could be the main security team, IT ops, maybe even specific departments owning their processes.
Like HR monitoring if people are following the acceptable use policy.
Exactly that kind of thing. You need clear ownership so it actually gets done properly and consistently.
Okay, so we're gathering all this data, numbers, logs, whatever. But that's not the end game, is it? It's just raw material until we do something with it.
Precisely. That's the analysis and evaluation piece. Raw data needs interpreting.
And the standard mentions when and who for this part too.
It does. The when for analysis should logically follow the monitoring. You analyze it often enough to spot trends or problems quickly. The who needs to be someone or a team that actually understands the ISMS well enough to see what the data means for your overall security.
Someone who can connect the dots.
You got it.
And all of this, what we track, how, when, who does it, the analysis, it all needs to be written down. Documented information keeps popping up.
Absolutely essential. You need the evidence. It shows you're actually doing it, not just talking about it. This could be dashboards, summary reports, the procedures themselves, proof.
Okay, so Putting 9.1 together, it's about moving beyond just having security stuff to actually knowing how well it's working, getting real evidence.
Evidence of performance, evidence of effectiveness. It's the foundation for making smart decisions about improving your security. Without it, you're just guessing.
Right. Okay. Let's shift gears to the second part of Clause 9, internal audit. Section 9.2. Now, audit can sound a bit, well, scary sometimes.
It can have that reputation, yeah.
But in the ISO 27001 context, what's the main purpose here?
It's basically twofold. First, does your ISMS meet the requirements? And that means your requirements, your policies, your procedures, and also the requirements of the ISO standard itself.
Okay, checking against the rule book, internal and external.
And second, is it actually implemented effectively? Is it being maintained? Are people following the procedures? Is it working in practice? It's like an internal checkup for the whole system.
An internal health check. I like that, making sure we're following the rules and that the rules are actually doing their job. Section 9.2.2 goes into the internal audit program. What's involved in setting that up?
The key thing is that it's a program, not just one audit, but a planned series. You need to plan it, set it up, run it, and maintain it.
So it's ongoing.
Yes. And when you plan the program, you have to think about how important different processes are. Critical stuff probably needs auditing more often.
Makes sense.
And you also look at results from past audits. Did we fix the things we found last time? Are there new problems showing up?
So it learns and adapts based on experience and risk. What else does the program need?
Well, for each specific audit within the program, you need to define the audit criteria. What are you auditing against? A policy, a specific control, a clause, and the scope, which parts of the organization or ISMS are included this time.
So clear boundaries for each audit.
Keeps it focused.
What about the auditors themselves? The standard mentions selecting them carefully and ensuring objectivity and impartiality.
Yeah.
Why the big emphasis there?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial for the audit to be credible. Auditors need the right skills, obviously that's competence, but they also must be objective. Meaning free from bias, no conflicts of interest. You shouldn't really be auditing your own work, for example.
Right, that wouldn't be very impartial.
Exactly. It ensures the findings are based on facts and evidence, not, personal opinions or someone trying to make their department look good.
What about smaller companies where that might be hard, finding someone totally separate?
Yeah. The standard acknowledges that. In smaller setups, you might need safeguards, maybe someone from a different team audits, or you bring in external help sometimes. The goal is to minimize that bias as much as possible.
Get an unbiased view of reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so the audit happens. What's next? Reporting the results.
Yes. The results have to be reported to relevant management.
Who's that usually?
The managers who are responsible for the areas that were audited, they need to know the findings, good, bad, or areas for improvement, so they can actually take action if needed. It closes the loop.
And documentation again, I assume. Records of the audits.
Yep. You need proof the program is running schedules, plans, and proof of the results, the actual audit reports, any nonconformities found, what actions were taken. It demonstrates the whole process is happening systematically.
So internal audits are like this structured, independent check to make sure the ISMS isn't just on paper, but working effectively, catching issues before they become major incidents.
That's the idea. A proactive way to keep the ISMS healthy and find ways to improve.
Okay, that brings us to the final section of Clause 9, Management Review. Section 9.3. This sounds like it sits higher up in the organization.
It absolutely does. Section 9.3.1 states very clearly, top management shall review the organization's information security management system at planned intervals.
Top management. So the leadership team, C-suite.
Exactly. This isn't something they can just fully delegate. They need to be personally involved in looking at the ISMS to make sure it's still, as the standard says, suitable, adequate, and effective.
So they own its overall success. What do they actually review in these meetings? Section 9.3.2 lists a bunch of inputs. Let's maybe walk through some key ones. First, status of actions from previous reviews. Why start there?
It's about accountability. Did we actually do what we decided to do last time? Did it work? It stops the review just becoming a talk shop where the same problems come up again and again.
Closing the loop. Makes sense. Then it mentions changes external and internal issues and the needs of interested parties. How does that feed in?
Well, the world doesn't stand still, right? New threats emerge, regulations change, maybe customers demand higher security standards, competitors change their posture.
The whole context can shift.
Exactly. So top management needs to look at those shifts and ask, is our ISMS still right for this environment? Does it still meet stakeholder needs?
It keeps the ISMS relevant.
Essential. Can't have a static system. Then there's feedback on information security performance. This sounds like where all the data from 9.1 and 9.2 comes together. Trends in nonconformities, monitoring results, audit results, progress on objectives.
That's precisely it. This is the dashboard for top management. Are we seeing recurring problems, nonconformities? Are key metrics, monitoring results, heading in the right direction? What did the independent checks audits find? Are we actually hitting the security goals we set?
Gives them the big picture view of ISMS health.
For performance summary, yeah.
The list also includes feedback from interested parties and results of risk assessment and status of the risk treatment plan. Why are those critical for this review? Feedback from customers, regulators, partners. That gives an outside-in perspective. Are they happy with their security? Do they have concerns? And the risk assessment and treatment plan, that's core ISMS stuff. Top management needs to be sure the identified risks are still the right ones and that the plans to handle them are adequate and align with the company's overall tolerance for risk.
Keeping risk management aligned with strategy.
Absolutely.
And the last input mentioned is opportunities for continual improvement. This seems to reinforce that ISO 27001 is about getting better, not just being done.
Exactly right. Continual improvement is baked into the standards philosophy. The management review is a prime time for leadership to identify and approve ways to make the ISMS better, maybe through new tech, refined processes, more training, whatever enhances its suitability, adequacy, or effectiveness.
So they review all this input. What comes out of the meeting?
Yeah.
Section 9.3.3 talks about the results or outputs.
The main output should be decisions. Decisions about those continual improvement opportunities, yes, let's pursue that one. And decisions about any needed changes to the ISMS itself, maybe updating a policy, tweaking the risk plan, allocating budget to fix a weakness, setting a new objective.
Concrete actions, not just discussion.
That's the intent. The review must drive action.
And, surprise, surprise, these decisions and outcomes need to be documented.
You guessed it. Documented information is needed as evidence the review happened, what was discussed, what was decided, and what actions were assigned. It provides that all-important audit trail and accountability.
Okay, so if we zoom out, Clause 9 creates this continuous cycle. You monitor and measure 9.1, you independently verify with audits, 9.2, and then top management reviews all that evidence, 9.3, to steer the ship and drive improvement, which then feeds back into what you monitor.
It's a classic Plan-Do-Check Act cycle, really, focused specifically on performance evaluation and improvement for the ISMS, a closed-loop system designed to ensure effectiveness and drive betterment.
Building that culture of continuous improvement right into security.
That's the heart of it.
Well, this has been a really thorough deep dive into Clause 9. It's so clear now that performance evaluation isn't just, some bureaucratic exercise for a certificate.
No, it's fundamental.
It's the engine driving actual security improvement. It really makes you ponder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How can any organization truly know its security posture without these kinds of rigorous checks?
Are they just hoping things are okay?
Or are they actively using data, using insights from audits, using management oversight to get stronger? Understanding Clause 9 really shows that security management is this ongoing journey, right? Constant assessment, constant adaptation. It's never really finished.
Never a one-time fix.
So maybe the thought to leave people with is, what are the real implications of not doing this properly for any organization handling sensitive information, regardless of size? Something to think about long after we wrap up.